Alright, we're going to go ahead and create the top and bottom of this barrel here. Now, instead of me actually taking up another slot, I'm going to actually take the one we have been using right here. Go on to my parent level, so it's all grayed out. And I'm going to change the standard to a multi-sub-object shader, so we can keep everything, you know, basically controlled in this one little area. So I'm going to go standard, and we're going to go multi-sub-object. I'm going to say, when I double click it, I'm going to say keep old material as submaterial. And what that does is drop the oil drum 2 in that number 1 slot. So I'm going to say oil drum 2. Now, of course, we lost the texture here. So what I'm going to do is actually click the object here. Let's go back to its polygons, which we have selected already. It remembers the selection from last time. And then I'm just going to go ahead and drag that on there. And then, of course, turn that on. And there we go, because remember we locked them in place. So that looks pretty good. Alright, so let's go ahead and take care of the tops now. So I'm going to go, let's say, oil drum 2, and we'll call this top. Or if you want to make it even easier, let's go top oil drum 2. Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that face, and I'm going to hit grow until we get the faces that we need. I don't want to carry over. I don't want to actually grab any of the stuff, so I'm going to hit shrink. There we go. That looks pretty good. So from there, with that selected now, let's go inside this shader. Now it has its own settings, so we're going to go into the diffuse slot. We're going to make it a mix map. And as you can see, we have our 3 slots. So now I'm going to go ahead and put in my first texture, which I want more of the slime to show. So I'm going to go bitmap, grab my slime, open that up, go to my parent level here, or the next level up. In this color slot 2, we're going to get another bitmap, and I'm going to use this rust diffuse right here. I'm going to open it up. And then let's go ahead and go back to the parent level, and I'm just going to show that. And then from there, we can actually drag that right onto those faces. Oops, not from here, but from our parent level. There we go. And if I show maps and viewports, and if I, whoops, I actually got to turn those on too, huh? Let me go back. Make sure you turn these on. Show maps and viewports there. And then if I UV map that with the planar, that should technically show. Let's let me make sure I got the rest showing, that showing. And you know what I forgot to do is I got to drag it from the parent level from here. There we go. And there we go. We see we have our slime now. But we didn't mix it any. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go inside here, back into the mix map. And then, of course I can crank it up from here. Mix that up a little bit. That actually looks pretty good. Something like that. Or I can use another masking map. So I can select this new slot, bitmap, and I'm going to use a different type of masking map, which is this one. If I open that up, that basically mixes the two together. And that looks pretty good. And I think from there, I'm going to go to my parent level here, and let's just go ahead and render that out and see how it looks. Alright, looks pretty good. Alright. Let's go ahead and take care of the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that in place. Right click, collapse to, hit yes. Now, let's take care of the bottom. I didn't want no green slime in there, so I'm going to go ahead and call this the bottom barrel, or bottom oil drum 2. And let's go ahead and select those faces. And I'm going to hit grow. something about right there. Go inside that slot. And in here, I'm not even going to mix it. I'm just going to go ahead and throw a bitmap in here, which is this one. Open it up. Turn maps and viewports. Turn them on, and then I'm going to drag it from here. And there you go. And of course, make it a habit of just kind of UV mapping that out. We know it's one planar. I'm going to go UV map, keep it as a planar. And like I said, we can always control those. You know, how we want it to align. Or if you need to scale it up and down, maybe you want this to be covered more. You know, you don't want to go in here because now we're starting to tile it. But, you know, just letting you know. I'm going to go ahead and fit that on there. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and right click, collapse that too. Hit yes. There we go. We have our barrel. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Unhide all. Let's go to our camera. Right click camera here. And I'm going to render that out. There we go. Now, this one, remember, we actually unwrapped, so we haven't textured that yet. But now we have a mix map on this one. Now, but the next thing, though, is we haven't properly put the bump maps and the speculars on it to give it that little more of a kick, you know, to the texture. So I'm about to go ahead and show you how to do that. Alright, let's go ahead and start working on our specs and bumps for that barrel to give it a little more pop. So I'm going to close that out, select my barrel here. I'm going to hit P to get in perspective. I'm going to right click, hide unselected, and Z up on it. Alright, so I'm going to hit F4 just to turn off our edges. As you can see, we have a seam here. That's just because this wasn't a seamless texture, but that's alright because we can turn that and hide that. Alright. So, I'm going to go back to the M key to get my material. Now, what we're going to do here is go to the first oil drum. 2. Right here. I'm clicking here. Now, inside these slots, we have our diffuse slot, but inside the map slots, we have our speculars we're going to turn on and our bumps. Now, the first thing we're going to work on is on our specular levels. So, in the none slot as well, we got to hit a mix map. And then we got to put in our 2 specular maps for each of those textures. First one being bitmap, which is the rust leak spec right there. I'm going to open that up. And at the same time, I want to double click this so you can see it kind of happening as we go. Let me shrink this down just slightly. Alright, so I go back to my level here from a mix level. And back to my parent level, and you can, oops, let me go oil drum. Let's go back in here. And then you can see if I turn this on, kind of dulls out, and then now we got our hot spots. Alright, now the second map in the specular level, we have a rust leak. We're going to put the green slime spec. So I'm going to go bitmap. We got our green slime specular. I'm going to open that up. And you're going to see that kind of pop. Alright, so if I were to show that, let's switch this to like a cylinder and you'll probably see it more. Alright, so if I turn that off, you can see it, turn on, and then, you know, obviously we got a little bit of the shine. Alright, so now the last slot we're going to use is our bump map. So I'm going to go ahead and in our bump slot, we're going to go bitmap. Oh, I'm sorry, we're going to go, not bitmap, we're going to change that to mix map. Alright, so in here I have, oops, sorry, we're going to go inside here. We're going to change that map. Let's just go right here to the none slot. And I believe this is the, we need the bump for the rust leak bump right there. I'm going to open that up. Alright, and then as you can see, it just kind of bumped out. And then let me go and put the bump map for the green slime. And there you go. And of course, technically we don't need a masking map for any of this. We just needed the bumps for them. Alright, so if you go back here, we can turn off our spec to see it. There you go. Turn it back on. And then of course the bump map. There we go. Now of course we can adjust these on the fly here if I want my specular to be down a little bit more, or maybe raise my bump up. But I think the bump looks pretty good at 30. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out, and let's go ahead and give it a test render. And let me give it at a different angle here, where the light's kind of hitting on it. Oops, we're on the back side. Let me cancel that out. Alright, somewhere around here. There we go. And now you can see we have our kind of the texture onto it. Now, if technically we didn't want the bump onto the slime, remember we could actually reverse these bumps too. Not that I want to, but if we don't want the bump on the slime, we can just turn that off, and our slime won't be as bumpy. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and leave that on for now. Alright, so there we go. We have our speculars. Now, one quick and dirty way we could have possibly did it was just grab the diffuse and then drag it over, but I didn't want to do that. You usually want to get your proper bumps and specs in there, the color maps, and the saturated maps, and then making your specs with your levels by increasing the blacks and whites. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and unhide this, and let's go back to our camera view. All right, looks pretty good. So just to make things easier on us, I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and duplicate that and just kind of rearrange them. So I'm going to go back to P. And I'm going to Z up on that. Let's go to our top view, and I'm going to replace these. So I'm just going to kind of line them up. So I'm going to hold down Shift, duplicate that right over this one. And I mean, I could easily delete the other one, but I want to make sure I got them in the same spots just for this lesson. So I want to make sure I'm deleting the right oil. I got oil drum. Let's get the old one. Let's hide. Delete that one. There we go. And then of course we're gonna leave this one here. Let's get one here. Let's duplicate this one. And I'm gonna rotate that one on its local. So I'm gonna go to rotate. And let's bring this down 90, and I'm going to rotate it this way 90, or not 90 but 45. That looks pretty good. So then I'm just going to go ahead and let me hide that one and delete this one, and let's unhide everything now. And I want to make sure that our barrel is not floating in the air. As you can see, it's floating, so I'm going to just drag that down to the bottom here. Alright, let's go ahead and give ourselves, let's go to our camera view, Alt W, and let's give ourselves, let me click out here, let's go Alt W, oops, there we go. Let's go ahead and, that looks pretty good. I mean, I guess I could grab some of these and rotate them slightly different, to hide that seam right there, which is fine. I'll do it somewhere like that. That's cool. And that looks pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and render this out. Alright, and looks like we got a pretty good scene in the works right now. So next thing we're gonna do is let's go ahead and hand paint this one, since we did unwrap that one. That way maybe I can put like a maybe that biohazard symbol on there and so forth. Alright, so we'll continue that in the next video. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and hand paint that that barrel here. Now, one thing I went ahead and planned ahead of time, I should say, is I'm gonna hit P. I'm gonna Z up on that barrel. I actually had to remap this barrel, and basically what I did was, I took everything except for the tops. Whoops, except for the tops and bottoms here, and I had to unwrap all that, and then I did the tops by themselves. and then we UV mapped that and unwrapped those. So what we eventually ended up with was this. So I unwrapped everything now, and then edits, and then there was my my UV layout that I laid out properly. The reason I did this because I wanted to check my patterns here to make sure everything was not stretched, because earlier I found, as I was testing it out, it was stretched. Be some of the textures. Alright, so but then once I got that all settled, I went ahead and locked it in place. Before I did that though, I went to tools and rendered out the UV template and then saved it out as a PNG. And then I took it into Photoshop. So let me go ahead and collapse that now. And so I opened this up in Photoshop. Looks like we got some. That's alright, it's not a big deal. It's a tutorial anyways, base tutorial. Now I opened up that in Photoshop, and as you can see, I painted this custom texture. So let me hide and reveal everything one by one. And remember, when you when you save a PNG, make sure you change your mode to 8-bit so you can save it out as a JPEG and have access to all your tool sets. So as you can see, I laid down the texture here, and then that was one texture that covered the tops and bottoms. Put the toxic sign, and maybe add this little graffiti. And for the wire, I went ahead and hid the wire right there. And then I saved this out. So when I went back into Max here, I went into that barrel that we dragged, those coordinates on, or that shader, so we know that represents that barrel. I went to diffuse slot, bitmap, and then here's our oil drum. And then I just show maps and viewports. But as you can see, we have, I didn't realize that it was upside down at the time. So in order to fix that, what I went ahead and did is grab my element here, which is everything. UV, unwrapped it, hit edit again to get to this, but we went and found our texture. So I picked the texture, went to bitmap, and then loaded up my texture behind our scene here. And all I did was actually take the element here of this section of the barrel, and then I just flipped it, and then I click back on here, and then now it's right side up. And that's all it is. That's all I did. And that's, remember, you got these tools here, you can actually rotate things. Alright, from there I just went ahead and locked it in place, collapsed too, and there's our barrel now. So if I unhide this, let me actually let's get in our camera view, and let me click on him. Let's go to our rotate. Let's rotate him out slightly this way. Something like that. So I'm going to go ahead and give myself a test render, and looks like we got a pretty decent barrel. And of course, I didn't do the bumps and specs yet, but that's, simple. So if I went back to Photoshop here, I can sit here and if I wanted to make my whole specular, I'm going to go ahead and collapse everything here. Oops, let me click that. We're always running into that problem. Let me click that, control here, this, and I am going to create my specular first. I'm going to right click, merge those layers on the one, and then just saturate them. Just let's go to our saturations, just like that. And I'm going to mess with the levels. Oops, image adjustments, levels. I'm going to kind of crunch these up, these down a bit, something along the lines of that. And then that would be my specular, I suppose. Let me tweak that out. Alright, so that would be my specular. I would save that out, and we'll save it as a JPEG. Over this one, oil drum diffuse, but we'll call this spec. Alright, and then I'm going to Control Z, get back to my layers here, and then I'm going to hide this one and this one, and then we're going to go ahead and collapse these. Merge layers, and then I'm just going to saturate these for my bump. Adjustments, using saturations, there we go. I'm going to drop that, file, save as my bump. So I'll go to JPEG and let's go oil drum diffuse, but call this one the bump. Save it out. Then let's go back to Max here, and I'm going to go ahead and close that out a bit. Close this out. I'm going to go to M to open up my material editor, and we're going to our map slot of this shader. I'm going to maps. Let's go to our specular. I'm going to drop that in there. So we're looking for our oil drum spec. I'm going to open that up, and then go to our bumps here, bitmap, and let's go for our oil drum bump right there, the unwrap one. Open that up, and then as you can see, we have, you see kind of the bump take place. Alright, and of course we can adjust these properly, as we test render things out. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a test render. Alright, things are looking pretty good. So, there we go. I mean, it looks like we can probably tighten that up a little bit, That, I mean, it looks somewhat like it's stretching a little bit, but no big deal. Alright, so there we go. We have just learned some mix mapping, and also we showed a little more on unwrapping. And we're going to eventually continue custom painting our brick walls, and I'm going to show you a trick with a noise map for our ground here. Alright, until next time, thanks for watching. Hopefully you picked up some techniques, and like I said, if you have any suggestions, feel free to hit me up or comment on the YouTube page. Other than that, though, I'll catch you next tutorial. Alright, later.